battling over the privilege of controlling you. And as they pile up, your pot, your head starts to boil. Do not park your ass on your sofa. The everyday gloom, blues of the soul, is actually something that affects the vast majority of us. Much more prevalent, common, and natural than more serious stuff like depression or anxiety, as well as other mental burdens. In this video, I would like to give some ideas, some suggestions on what causes that kind of a blues and the ways you can tackle it, escape it, and even avoid it. First of all, let's begin by mentioning that this kind of a downer mood is very natural and common, and you shouldn't be worried. Life isn't always about rainbows and unicorns, and sometimes you have to feel the bumps on the road in order to appreciate the things that you already have. You have to feel the low in order to appreciate the high, because life is found and experienced in contrasts. These blues might stretch anywhere between a couple of hours to much longer than that. Oftentimes, it surprises us when we have free time at hand, when we have me time. The thoughts start floating around and the weight of negativity starts to pound on your shoulders. The way you dig yourself into the darkest debris of your mind, trying to find anything negative to feed on for your ego. The gloomy feeling is basically you reacting on subconscious things that you aren't necessarily satisfied with in your life. Things that were in the corner of your mind, playing around, just being very latent. And as they pile up, your pot, your head starts to boil. You want something that isn't and cannot be attained for the moment being. Your ego echoes. It desires something. And as I said many times before, it becomes a clash between your mind and your ego, battling over the privilege of controlling you. One thing you have to realize is completely normal and humane. There's nothing wrong with it. Just by realizing this, just by being aware, makes it much more easier. Also, one of the other biggest reasons to why we feel this melancholy, this blues, the weather. There is something called SAD, which conveniently enough is short for seasonal affective disorder. This folk sickness is very common and affects people during the fall all the way through winter. As the amount of sunlight diminishes, our bodies almost try to go into an involuntary sleep state, and there are several ways to deal with it. Some of them include light therapy and taking vitamin D, but ultimately those feel like short-term solutions. I never really tried them myself, besides vitamin D pumped into food products. And for the most part, there's nothing more you can do than just bear with the weather, bear with the season, or make a long-term planning to move to a warmer climate. The everyday blues is caused by subconscious processes. Those dictate our mood, stuff that we don't think out loud about. And this is precisely why self-awareness is paramount. It's necessary to treat or even avoid this kind of a mental state. When you know exactly what's happening to you, it's easier to be tolerant and more accepting. Not lose your mind, not fall into a panic. Just understand that this is temporary and this too shall pass. This melancholy is the way of body to bring you back to awareness. Because obviously when we are having this kind of feelings, we have been avoiding ourselves for some time. Everything is relative, of course, and this is nothing in comparison to more dire mental disorders. So whenever you feel that you are a little bit down, you have to ask yourself, why do I feel like that? What is wrong with me? And of course, I don't mean wrong in a serious manner, rather a queer to start a thought process for understanding yourself. The best way to deal with this kind of a mental state is to not get stuck. Do not get into the temptation of not doing anything. Do not park your ass on your sofa thinking that it's okay, that you should take some time off and do nothing. Because if you do that, the heavier existential questions will enter your mind and it will become even harder to get yourself out of there. Not doing anything is our pre-installed programming. It's very enticing. It calls upon us. It wants us to assume an idle position, to eat extra, to watch a lot of TV shows, to go to sleep. You have to resist that urge. My personal way of dealing with this is to achieve small wins each and every day. In this special case, I do that in the gym. You will always have these negative thoughts doubting yourself, making excuses to not push yourself and not take small steps towards your goals. But you have to shut that demon on your shoulder and make the biggest effort to not succumb to those poisonous thoughts. I go to the gym early in the morning or as earliest as possible so that I can set up a good mood to the rest of my day. Winning in the iron hole makes me win the whole day. Whenever I feel depleted after a sweaty session, I know that I have accomplished something good, and it motivates me to be productive and effective even with other endeavors that I am dealing with. You have to understand that the mind is very demandable and it doesn't give credits. Even if you make incremental progress each and every day, you will be very harsh towards yourself, thinking that nothing substantial is happening. The best way is to shut that thinking right away and keep grinding at it. Dwell as little as possible. And yet again, self-awareness comes into the picture, helping you to pull yourself from the darkest thought patterns by not hating on yourself because of self-doubt, by being accepting and tolerant, by embracing all of those as a part of the process. If it's seasonal, be prepared, understand that it's temporary, and understand that there's nothing wrong with you. Personally, I feel weighed down and gloomy when the fall comes and the winter follows. I am the most effective and productive during the warmer days of the year. And I know that there's an uphill battle that awaits me straight ahead. But it's okay. There's not much I can do besides being aware of the fact. The most important takeaway from this video is to not stop the vehicle. Keep pushing that pedal. If you haven't seen it, there's a film with Keanu Reeves and Sandra Bullock called Speed, and they're operating a bus that cannot be stopped because it will explode. Think of this gloomy state as such. If you stop, the devil will nibble at your soul yet again. Exercise, work best you can. Motivate yourself by acknowledging your past successes. If you're struggling with something more heavier, I suggest you to watch this video. How do you deal with the everyday blues and seasonal affective disorder? Tell me in the comment section. But for now, Hossein out.